You can take plain Dollar Tree plastic ornaments and transform them into high-end Christmas decor for a fraction of what you'd pay in a boutique. Watch my video to see how I made these with UV resin and dish soap. That's right, dish soap. So the first thing I did was remove the caps, and then I spray painted the ornaments with a light base coat, just spray paint. I like using Rust-Oleum paints, but you can really use whatever you want. I like using a base color when I'm using these plastic ornaments because the surface of the plastic is really slick. And so the paint gives you some tooth. It gives you a good surface texture for glues or resin to stick to. And even here, I am questioning the use of black, but I make it work in the end. I'm using my nail jig to hold the ornaments in place, and you can just watch this video right here to see why and how I made this. Then you need some UV resin, and I'm using this high viscosity from J Diction because it's really thick and doesn't run as much. And then you need a UV resin curing light. I'm just using this one from Let's Resin. And then you need a container with water and a little bit of dish soap to make bubbles. You can shake the container to make bubbles, and this is a lot easier and it's a lot less messy. But if you shake it too much, you get tiny bubbles and a lot of foam. And I don't want that for this project because it's just not the look I want. But let me show you. Spread a little bit of UV resin on your ornament and then just, work in a small section at a time. I'm using a little rubber spatula to spread the UV resin so it doesn't make a mess, and see how thick it is. I love working with this UV resin. Then use your hand or a rubber spoon like I'm using and scoop the bubble foam out of your container. You just want to spread it really thinly on top of the UV resin, okay? Then you want to cure it under your lamp for about a minute. Then gently wipe off the bubbles with a paper towel. The soap bubbles leave an imprint on the UV resin as it cures. So small bubbles leave a pattern a lot like orange peel. It's cute, but it's just not what I want. I have much better luck getting the bubble size I need by just using a straw to blow into the soapy mixture. Is this messy? Yes, but I need a lot of bubbles, and this technique just works for me. The nice thing about art techniques is that you can do what you want to do and adapt a technique to fit your own needs. If you don't want to use a straw, don't use a straw. If you want small bubbles, then make small bubbles. If you want big bubbles like this, then by all means use a straw. That is much better. That's more of the look that I'm going for. Okay. Then I had an idea to try and attach the ornaments to my cup turner that I used to make resin wine glasses. The ornaments did not fit on the turner arm like other Dollar Tree ornaments have in the past. So I used pool noodle scraps, and this worked somewhat, but the ornaments were not really snug and they kept flopping around like a fish. Um, this was the point that I'm really, really glad that I'm doing a voiceover because there were some very choice words coming out of my mouth, but they were technical art words, of course. Bubbles were just sliding around everywhere, and this was really, really getting messy. But on the plus side, I had both hands free, and that was a huge plus. It did take a little while to get in the groove, and you can see it's really working. I'm getting some really, really cool bubbles, and these are going to be amazing. But I did end up moving back to my nail jig for the rest of them. And by this point, I was really getting into the groove and making good progress. Sometimes the UV resin leaves sharp points as it cures, but it's really easy to sand down with sandpaper. And I'm using a 180 grit here. I only sanded the rough edges, and not all of them needed sanding. And now the fun part, and this is where you really are going to start seeing the magic of this technique. I'm using a cheap makeup brush from Dollar Tree to very liberally brush on mica powder. And when I say liberally, I am really making a mess. I know this, but I need to get the mica powder down in all the fine crevices because wow, look at the difference. I'm using the Let's Resin Galaxy Chameleon powder on these first two and then spreading it really, really well with that brush. It sticks to the crevices and it really just makes the pattern pop. You don't need it to stick to the smooth parts, just the crevices, the nooks, and the crannies. I am going to be using the Sesso Silver White here. And then my absolute favorite aqua by Decorom. Also using the Sesso Gold here, and just look at the difference. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love. I really wanted to make these black ones work, so using the aqua on these really made a big difference. I probably could have just left them like this and called it a day, but I really wanted to take them to the next level because I am going to be selling these at an art show. I bought these tiny glass bubbles from Amazon, and I'll have a link in the description, of course. They're actually called caviar bubbles because they're so small. I have them in clear and also an iridescent blue aqua that's really, really pretty. I'm just using very small dots of UV resin, working in small areas at a time, and then just sprinkle the bubbles on the top. Then cure under the lamp, shake off any loose beads, and then work on another area. Use as little or as much as you want. I'm really wanting to bling these up because I think they will sell really, really well. The bubbles do like to bounce around because they're so light, so prevent them from pinging all around the room. I have a piece of paper towel at the bottom of this plastic storage bin. So the loose beads end up getting contained, and then the paper towel keeps them from bouncing all around. Once I'm done, I can just pour them back into the container and use them again. These bubbles are really, really inexpensive, and you get a lot in the package. Did you know that you can use a heat gun or a hair dryer to soften resin that's already cured? But make sure you use low heat so you don't burn it and that you have proper ventilation because you do not want to be breathing those fumes in. It doesn't really take long to do that. And then you can kind of bend it to form around your ornament. Once you have it where you want it, you have it in place, just use a little bit more UV resin to tack it in place and put it under your lamp. Just work in small areas. And once you have it attached, you can use more UV resin and a little bit more bubbles here and there to hide any ugly spots. I do like to bling it out a lot because more is better in some cases, after all. I did add starfish and turtle charms to some of them and also use UV resin to attach them as well. I will have a link to these charms in the description below. You don't have to cover the whole charm with UV resin, and I'm not doing that here, but you certainly can if you wish. And now my attempt at salvaging what I thought was going to be a horrible color choice with that black spray paint. But adding the UV resin bubbles and then the aqua mica powder on top of that made a huge difference, completely changed the color. It's almost like a starry night effect or northern lights. I'm not really sure what you want to call it, but I just absolutely love them. And now for the caps. It was never my intent to just put the caps back on the ornaments as is because they look like light bulbs. They are just too plain. So I dug into my scrap ribbon stash, and don't you judge me because you probably have one too. And I found some really cute ribbon to cover the caps and hide that ugly. Just a dab of hot glue fixes it right up.